ashes, broken by the yearn for more and more. Another spin of the wheel, roll of the dice, or ace on the turn. You beg, borrow, or steal, or trade your soul for bands to burn. In God we trust, says on the bill, from boom to bust, make it a thrill. It can steal your life, dominate your goals, make trouble and strife, seek another soul. This little paper deity, let's go and flash the plastic, blow it all on hot girls and wheels. Let's do something drastic. In the morning we'll never feel. Where were you on Black Wednesday? Stood for hours outside the Northern Rock, still hungover from Tuesday. Must we take this banker's cross? In God we trust, says on the bill, from boom to bust, make every thrill. It can steal your life, dominate your goals, make trouble and strife, seek another soul. This little paper deity,
Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well and that you've had a good week. I've had a very good week. I've had a great weekend. It's been extremely nice weather here for the most part this weekend here in the sunny Midlothian area of Scotland in the UK. Yeah, I hope everyone's had a great one. Billy says he's not hearing anything. Well, according to OBS, we have audio, so it must be you. Must be at your end, Billy, so I recommend you pop out and pop back in. If somebody could relay that to Billy, that would be helpful. Anyone else having audio issues? Because according to OBS, we have full audio going out. Sounds okay, says Ken, which is good. So it must be at Billy's end. So Billy probably just needs to drop out and come back in. And maybe unmute YouTube. I've done that. There you go. Billy says he's hearing now. Cool. Alright, so we're all good. We are all good. Which is what I like to hear. And I'm just gonna stop the music in the background because we don't need it now. But welcome to November 7th episode of Sunday Night Live. I have worked out that this is probably the 215th show that we've done for Sunday Night Live, and that's been mostly consecutive shows. There's been a few where we've missed the odd weekend here and there, but for the most part we have done 215 or so of these shows, which is pretty cool, and stretching all the way back to 2017 in my tiny little box studio that I had when the quality of the picture and the quality of the audio was awful, and then we moved in 2018 to my much bigger studio. And we got faster internet, better quality internet connection, and we had fantastic audio, fantastic picture. And now here we are in my third and probably final studio. Hopefully final. I really don't have to go through all that moving again. But hopefully this is the last one. And we have fantastic audio and fantastic quality internet. And hopefully it should get even faster. I'm hoping that I should be able to upgrade the line to gigabit. So 1,000 megs a second down and about 500 up. Which is going to be awesome. It's way overkill for what I need, but it's great to be able to have such fast internet. So, welcome everybody. Let's go see who's here. Rich was first in the door. Rich is one of my fantastic moderators. Rich Cresswell, he's awesome. Thomas is here as well. Just Bob, one of my other fantastic, awesome moderators, is here. And Owl is here. Kyle Jadruziak is here. Kyle is one of the original folks in the chat for Sunday Night Live. Kyle and I go back all the way back to like 2016, 2017 when we started, which is awesome. And Ken Moss is here. Dwayne is here. Dwayne has been around for a long time too, which is awesome. And Don Oliver is here. Tony Stringer, Billy Morgan is here as well. Paul Morgan, my fellow compatriot in Scotland, is here. And who else do we have? Sean Aaron is here. Kevin's Guitar Stories is here as well. Frank Wagner is here. Ironweed Studios is here. And you guys are all chatting. Marcos over in Brazil is here. Hola, Marcos. Hope you're doing well. I know you're in Brazil. You don't speak Spanish. You speak Portuguese. But I'm glad you're here. Ken says YouTube notification just came through. Yeah, I know. YouTube notifications have been a bit shit, and I'm going to use that word. They've been a bit shit lately. Not just for me, but for other users as well. For other channels that I subscribe to, I get their notifications really late as well. Which is weird. Sometimes like the video goes up and then an hour, maybe 2 hours later, I get the notification, which is weird. I don't know why that happens, but yeah, they're not very good. They're a little bit hit or miss. But if you subscribe to the channel, if you haven't already, and you click the notification bell anyway, you're going to get a notification. And hopefully they will improve it so that they come out a wee bit more regularly. That'd be nice. Billy says, I had to put my glasses on so I could hear. I know what you mean, I think. Kyle says, Jonny who? Jonny Lipsham who? Who else do we have? We have Renee. Renee, I'm gonna butcher your last name, but I'm gonna try it. Renee de Mules? Mules? Yeah, I probably butchered it, and I apologize if I have completely butchered your last name, Renee, but you are in Edmonton, and I'm very glad you're here. That is just awesome. Let's see, Marcos says, just wish to see if the future I buy Presonus interface that it's enough for running an Alesis 3630 without any noise, or just a few. Yeah, if you're running hardware gear into a Presonus interface, remember, analog hardware has its own noise and its own issues because it's analog. Although some hardware external gear is digital, and if you are able to connect to an interface via ADAT or through an optical connection, do it. That would be my recommendation. But yes, there are issues with external analog sources coming into any interface, whether it's a Presonus one or Focusrite or Motu, whomever. They're all going to have issues one way or another. And the other thing you're going to have to get used to is MIDI jitter. It is a thing. MIDI jitter has been around for as long as MIDI has been around, which is like nearly 40 years now. So jitter is definitely a thing, and you need to be able to account for it so that you are able to offset your input inside of Studio One to compensate for the jitter. So be aware of that one. That's always a thing to be aware of, and there's not a lot of people that know that. Now, here's the thing with jitter. There are some audio interfaces and some computers that handle it better than others. And it's anyone's guess, really, as to what device or what computer is going to handle MIDI jitter the best. I would suggest that probably the faster the processor and the more RAM you have, the better it's going to be for handling that kind of thing. But it can be very hit or miss. But yeah, that would be a thing there for you, Marcos, to be aware of. Did I actually just say beer aware of? Maybe I'm actually just thinking of beer, which is bad. Well, it's not bad, but, you know, bad for, you know, midnight here in the UK that I'm actually thinking about beer. Let's see. Secret Squirrel is here. He says good evening. He's saying good evening to everybody, which is awesome. Glad you're here, Secret. All right, folks. So, and Bobby Booth is here, so we can start now. Can he start until Bobby Booth is here? But he's here, which is awesome. Bobby, welcome. Glad you're here, buddy. Bobby is one of the originators of Sunday Night Live. So he's been here since pretty much show number 1. And he will be able to wax lyrical about how bad it was back then. But we all struggled through, and you know, somehow we managed to have helpful and educational Sunday Night Live shows. So that's cool. So I don't know actually how many people we have here. Let's go take a look. We've got 21 people here, which is not bad at all. Considering I totally forgot to advertise this until about an hour before showtime, which is terrible. Normally I'm much better at organized and much better at advertising my shows. So moderators, please give me a hand with that because I forget so easily. But anyway, Thomas says beer is good at any time. I would agree with that, except on on like midnight Sunday going into Monday morning, because then, you know, I have to work. So I have a day job at Presonus, which I would like to keep, thank you very much. So yes, Kyle, I heard about that. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see it. Or at least I didn't get to see all of it. I did see some of it. He had his first Saturday midnight show, which he looks like he had really good turnout. So I'm very pleased for him. So if you are on this side of the Atlantic, so you are in the UK or Europe or, you know, kind of Central Africa, and kind of beyond, those kind of areas, and actually kind of a morning time works better for you to be able to watch Jonny's show, then he has started doing a midnight Central Time show, which basically means it's like 6 a.m. for us here in the UK, and that's going to be 7 a.m. Central European time, and then further along the way it's going to be kind of, you know, further into the morning as you go in that general direction. So if that works out better for you, then I recommend go and check out that show. Next Sunday I will definitely make an effort to try and watch the whole thing. Al tried his best to do the Jonny Lipsham Studios thing, but he made a spelling mistake, but that's okay. I managed to catch it nonetheless. He says, what's the next stage of more notes per bar in 4/4 eighth note triplets, please? And is this different to 8/12? It is different to 8/12 because 8/12 does not exist as a time signature. It's not a thing. because the 12 value for the note value of your time signature just doesn't exist. You have 4 as in quarter notes, you have 8 as in eighth notes, you have 16 as in 16th notes. And then for the really weird people that like to live on the edge of contemporary classical music or progressive rock music or fusion, or you're into Alan Holdsworth or Virgil Donati, that kind of music, then there are 32nd note time signatures available to you. So 8/12 is not a thing. However, common kind of triple meters, which we call compound time, would be 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8. Those are your kind of regular kind of compound time meters. 6/8 is a fairly regular kind of, it's a fairly regular kind of time signature. You'd get, kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those kind of 1950s blues ballads quite often are in that kind of compound time 6/8 kind of a meter. One that is maybe a little less common is 9/8. 9/8 you would find in some reels in Irish folk music or some Gaelic Scottish Highland music as well. You get in 9/8, which is, it's just basically, it's another triplet. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And one way in which you can feel that is you can feel that either as that kind of, kind of like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or you can feel that as a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1, 2 and a 3 and a. So more like a 3/4, but with kind of triplets involved. So kind of depends on how you want to count it. Also depends upon the tempo of the piece as well. In the same way to 6/8 might actually be a lot faster, you're not going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're just not going to count like that. You're more likely to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 1. Well, in 6/8 you'd be going 1 and a 2 and a 1 and a 2 and a. And I'm going to get on to 12/8 because I just kind of hinted at it a little bit. 12/8 is where it feels much more like 4/4, but each beat is a triplet. So you get kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And again, kind of those 1950s blues ballads might be in 12/8. They could also be in 6/8. It kind of depends upon how the harmonic motion moves. So if you've got like 2 chords per bar, it's going to probably be a blues ballad in 6/8. So, if you have like... So that's kind of 6/8. If it was like a 12/8 thing, then it would be... So those would be your kind of differences there between kind of triplet meters. As I said, the most common ones being 6/8, 9/8, 12/8. You can also get 11/8, except that's not really completely a compound time meter. It's a complex compound time meter. The reason being is because it's not quite 12/8. It's kind of triplet, 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 duplet. What's a duplet? It's 2/8 notes. And then, of course, you can go from there. You can go on into really complex groupings of 3s and 2s to create really unique time signatures that would work great for different styles of music. Things like 15/8, 19/8, stuff like that. And nobody's going to count up to like 19. You're not going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You're not going to be able to count like that. So you have to break it down. And one of the ways that over the years I have broken down complex time signatures is by counting in triplets and duplets. And I came up with little mnemonics that help with that. So, for example, for triplets, I would use the word housey because, that would be for duplets, not triplets. Duplets, I came up with the mnemonic housey because it's a 2-syllable sound. And then for triplets, I came up with triangle because that is a 3-syllable mnemonic. And so if I'm dealing with a really complex time signature, then I would break it down into groups of 3 and groups of 2. So, something like 15/8 would be, I don't know, triangle, 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 housey, housey, triangle, 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 housey, housey, triangle, 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 housey, housey, and so on. And that, for me, helped me break up complex time signatures into something that was easy for me to feel and phrase with. Particularly if I'm playing music that's not Western, so maybe some Eastern music, like maybe some Iraqi or Kurdish folk music, or kind of Central and Northern African folk music. A lot of that's in really complex time signatures, and those people, they just feel it. It's just natural to them to play in 15/8, and they don't even, you say, "Are you aware that you're playing in 15/8?" And they have, "No, I have no idea that's in 15/8. I just play this music." So it's different for them than it is for us. But, that's how I would go about counting those different things. They might not count at all. They just feel it. It's just natural to them. For me, I might need to, count those things and have those kind of mnemonics in my mind so that I can play along with them in a way that's going to work for them and for me. But that's a really good question, though, actually, Al, about time signatures and triplet compound meters. So, Al, I hope that helps you. And if you have any follow-up questions, then do put them in the chat, because that's good. Secret Squirrel says, is it possible to set Studio One to normalize defined gain levels to imported samples and tracks? I want to set up a template as I'm receiving multi-artist videos with differing levels. There is a macro. You can create macros that can do this. There is one that already exists, and what you can do, because what this particular macro does is it normalizes to 0 and then it reduces the gain to -12 dBFS. So what you can do is you can take this particular macro that already exists and essentially copy it and then customize it to what you need it to be for the given project. So if you have the audio from, I don't know, 4 or 5 different videos, and you need to kind of put all these things together, and you want them all to be at the same volume, then you can basically apply the macro that you create to all of those audio events so that they are normalized to the same level. You can certainly do that. As I said, there is one that's already built into Studio One that does it. But that would be what I would suggest. Just Bob said, there is a genre called mathematic rock. What is it, and how is that different from standard time signatures, assuming the math has something to do with time signatures? I would imagine it does have something to do with time signatures, and probably ratios, and things like nested tuplets. If you're not sure what nested tuplets are, Adam Neely has done a wonderful video on nested tuplets, as has Sean Crowder. I recommend you look up both of those. So if you search into YouTube, nested tuplets, Tuplets, you will find both of their videos on nested tuplets and kind of like how all of those work. They are fantastic videos, and they will explain it way better than I could. And that's not because I'm, not any good at this kind of thing. It's more that they have done a lot more work in this particular style, because actually their band Sungazer creates music that uses a lot of those things. I don't really create music that uses a lot of nested tuplets, but they do. They do it all the time. So, I defer to their expertise and their experience with things like nested tuplets and, different rhythmic ratios. So definitely I would check those out, to be really honest. Another good question. Peace Valley Audio, that would be my good friend Mike is here. Glad he is. I spoke to Mike a little bit earlier, which is very, very cool. Ken says, for something like 11/8, is there a specific order to what beats are 3s and what beats are 2s? No, there isn't. You can subdivide the 11 as you want to. And actually, I would encourage you to come up with different ways in which you can subdivide it. And actually, what would be an even cooler exercise is if you could create a piece of music that has the 11/8 subdivided in different ways for different parts. So you can have one part that is subdivided, kind of like, 3, 3, 3, 2, and then you could have another part that is 2, 3, 3, 3, and so on. And you can figure out the different ways in which you can group 11 into 2s and 3s, and then have all your different parts doing that. And what you'll find is you'll have different accents coming up in different parts, and then you can take advantage of the stereo field and just spread them right across the stereo field. And you'll have different accents coming from left and right, and with different sounds, you could create something that would sound very, very cool. I'm going to recommend that you listen to somebody like Steve Reich, the American, I think he's American minimalist composer, because he has done work in that field quite a bit. He writes a lot of kind of percussion pieces, for percussion ensembles and that kind of thing, but he has, written stuff for orchestras and small bands and chamber groups and that kind of thing. But his work is based in minimalist ideas, so kind of using minimalist building blocks and lots of repetition, and creating kind of shifting kaleidoscopic sounds, that kind of stuff. And so, breaking up 11/8 or 15/8 or 19/8 or whatever time signature you want into different groupings of duplets and triplets could be a fun little creative exercise, and could actually lead to a really cool piece of music. I might actually have a go at doing that myself, actually. Rich says, bands like Tool use Fibonacci numbers and sequences as part of their songwriting process. Rush is math rock to some. Yeah, I suppose Rush kind of is, because Neil Peart was quite the experimenter when it came to different time signatures. He was fascinated by different time signatures and different meters and different ways of playing 4/4, actually. I can remember him doing a drum clinic where he had his audience clapping a clapping a pattern in 7/8 whilst he played a straight 4/4 beat over the top of it. And he explained kind of like how it kind of falls apart, then it comes back, and then it falls apart again, then it comes back. And he liked this kind of idea, this tension and release rhythmically. And so a lot of his songs with Rush kind of explore those ideas. Not just from a, kind of rhythmic perspective, but also the imagery in the lyrics that he wrote. He was a great lyric writer. I'm not necessarily a fan of the band particularly, but, I was very interested in latterly what they did with things like changes in tempo, changes in time signature, and Neil's lyrics are great. Let's see. Al does have a follow-up question. He says, so if I was to increase the amount of notes per bar in 4/4 eighth note triplets, would be 2 times 16th note triplets per 1/8 note triplet and any other options? Yeah, you're kind of getting into nesting is what you're getting into there. And as I say, probably the best option for you is to kind of go and look at what Adam Neely and Sean Crowder are talking about in regard to nested tuplets and that kind of thing. Just remember that a bar of 4/4 is finite. You can only push its envelope so far. Because technically there are only 16 16th notes in a bar of 4/4 and therefore 8 eighth notes. Now, you can stretch that by having triplets in there, but remember, a triplet is 3 eighth notes in the time it takes to play 2. You can push the envelope a little bit further by having quintuplets. So we're talking about 5 eighth notes played in the time it would take to play 2 eighth notes. So you can kind of push the envelope a little bit. But there is only so far that a bar of 4/4 can be pushed. However, like I said, you can nest tuplets within tuplets. So, for example, within a quintuplet of eighth notes, you could have each one of those eighth notes have 16th note triplets for each one. And then you could like accent every other note of each of those triplets. To create a really interesting parabolic rhythm, which you might want to explore. But yeah, there is only so much you can do with 4/4, which is why, there's a lot of other meters and time signatures to check out. But yeah, that whole thing with the value 12 just doesn't exist in Western music. You will find it, or something similar to it, in Israeli and Kurdish music, where they kind of do have that value. But it's not quite 12 like we would think of it. It's not kind of, their kind of triplets over there are not kind of an even triplet like we have here. They're kind of a little bit off kilter, which actually provides a really interesting tension. So, definitely worth exploring some of those musics. Just bear in mind that, when you're exploring things like Middle Eastern music, you're going to enter into a completely different world of tonality, because they don't have the 12-tone equal temperament that we have. Well, they do, but they don't use it, natively. In their indigenous music, there is no 12-tone equal temperament. It's vastly different. And so some of that music is going to sound a little bit out of tune to your ears. The reason being is because they are kind of playing notes that are actually in between the notes that we are used to. And so to you, those notes will sound a little bit out of tune, but they're not really. They're only out of tune to us because we have this 12-tone equal temperament, very much Western, 17th century onwards, 18th century onwards music, really, that everything is built out of. Popular music, jazz, blues, rock and roll, R&B, soul, funk, hip hop, EDM. They're all based out of this 12-tone equal temperament system, fundamentally, which originates in the the late 18th century in Europe amongst white European musicians. And then, of course, it gets added to by the music that comes from Africa and the Caribbean coming into contact with Western music via, the hideous thing that was the slave trade. One of the good things to come out of that, not that I'm saying slavery is good, but what I am saying is one of the good things that happened as a byproduct is that you had this kind of connection between African and Caribbean music on the one hand and European music coming together. And that's where you get the beginnings of rhythm and blues, soul, jazz, blues, and all of those kind of musics. And then, of course, you get rock and roll. And from rock and roll, you get pop music. And from pop music, you get, there's like hundreds of subgenres within each of those. So, yeah, those kind of musics are kind of a little bit unique in that respect. But I'm kind of getting a little bit off subject now. Secret Squad says, I'm just getting into libraries and just got Native Instruments as my second library. Kontakt is a little confusing to me. Does Kontakt have a way to add patches as favorites? I have no idea because I don't use Kontakt. I used to have Kontakt way back in my Cubase days. Didn't particularly get on with it, I'll be honest. Now, I know there's a lot of people that use it very, very successfully. And some of those people are here in the chat tonight. However, I have never really got on with Kontakt particularly. The sounds are fantastic. The samples that you will get with Kontakt are fantastic. They are world class. It's just kind of how Kontakt itself as an instrument within your DAW works that is a little bit complicated. I'll be honest, it's just a little bit complicated. But yeah, I don't use it, so I can't really help you with that. But Rich Cresswell can. Just Bob says, in MIDI, writing a drum pattern, can you turn off snap to grid so you can place a kick or snare slightly behind or in front of the beat? Moving one note instead of using humanize. Absolutely you can. Humanize is good, but you're right, it doesn't always completely humanize as you would want. But yes, you can. What you can do is when you're drawing in your notes, or even if you just tap in your notes to start with, and use that as kind of your starting point, and then you can start, you can just or just bring in a drum groove. Let's do that. Let's use VD Fat and bring in a drum groove. Let me just create a new song. And we'll go to instruments. Let's do this. First demo of the night, and we're already like 2/3 of the way through the show. Let's go to VD Fat. I love this guy. This guy is freaking awesome because it's got loops. So let's say we started with something like this. Let's try this one. Yeah, let's use this one. So I'm going to drag this into here. And I'm going to close this guy up. And we've got a nice little 4-bar loop here. So what I can do is I can double click this. And, oops, I just deleted that. Didn't want to do that. So let's turn off snap to grid. And let's zoom in on this guy. And let's move him a little bit late. Just a little bit. And then let's go to beat 4. This guy's a little bit early, so let's make him a little bit late as well. And then let's go to this one here. That one's late, so let's make this one a bit early. And then this one here is right on the money. Let's make this one a little bit late. Got a bar 3. Let's make that one a little bit early. And let's make this one a little bit late. All right. And then let's go to the final bar of our little loop. And let's make this one a little early as well. And we'll make beat 4 a little bit late as well. All right, so let's loop this and see what this is like. So it kind of depends upon what you want to achieve, but let's say that what you want to achieve, if I kind of undo everything, so if I go to edit history, and let's undo everything up to this point. Let's say you decide that you want everything that is snare drum to be a little bit early because you want that sense of urgency. So you can just select all of those snare drum notes. And then we can zoom in. And we can just grab them. And just move them that tiny fraction a little bit early. And with that snare drum being a little bit early, you get much more of a sense of urgency. Whereas, let's say you actually want to do the opposite. Let's go to edit, undo history. Let's undo that. Let's say what we want to do instead, selecting the same notes. Let's say what we want to do is we want to make these a tiny fraction bit late instead. Now it's a bit more laid back. So I hope that helps. And that will help you decide how you want the humanization to take place. And it gives you more kind of scope for creating something that has much more natural ebb and flow to it. So I hope that helps. Yep, hope that helps. That's a good question. Whoops. Let's see. So yeah, as soon as you turn off the snap to grid feature, you can move anything completely freely. It's not tied to the grid anymore. So even if you just go, there's one note, one nagging little note that you want to move, but putting it on the grid is wrong. It just feels wrong to put it on the grid. You can turn snap to grid off and you can just drag it about until you find that little niche where it lives, where it should be. And then you can keep it there. And then you can turn snap to grid back on. It will not affect the note that you've just moved, but any subsequent edits will be tied to the grid. So hope that helps. Chris is here. He says, are we allowed to take off our Halloween costumes yet? Of course you are. That's funny. Let's see, what else do we have? Chris says that timing affects my OCD, the kick mainly, but the tip is on the money. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the kick is kind of a little bit wonky, but I think this whole particular loop is not quantized, which is why as soon as I started moving the snare, the kick just started sounding a little bit wonky, more than it should have been. But yeah, just Bob says, that is great, will help me correct my lack of drumming skills. I'm a fair weather guitarist. Yeah, I'm kind of a torrential rain guitarist, but you know, between us we'll find a happy medium. All right, I'm going to take a swig of tea. Any more questions? We've got about 10 minutes left. But that was a really good question, really good couple of questions there that we've had. Ken says, if you find a good contact preset, you can create a small MIDI bar and save it as an audio loop, and it will load the contact VST and the preset. So just name the audio loop by the specific preset. That's a great tip. Did not know. Did not know that. Did not know that. And actually, Mike has a really good tip here. He says, turning off snap is great for getting flams right. Yeah, absolutely, because when you try and quantize flams, they just sound horrible. And you can decide by turning off the snap to grid, you can decide how open or how closed you want your flams to be. I kind of like mine quite closed. You know, I don't like them wide open. You know, some drummers like their flams to be nice and wide open, especially on toms. Nice wide open flams can actually sound really cool. I'm not one of those people. I'm kind of I like them quite closed. But each to their own. Secret Squirrel says, do you ever play with creating your own keyed instruments within piano tech or organ tech? If so, could we hear a custom patch of yours? I don't use either of those. So the answer, unfortunately, is no. I cannot show you any presets from those because don't use them. This is a clavier Nord, and I mostly use entirely what's in here. You know, I don't actually tend to use anything outside of what's already built in. I will occasionally, you know, if I'm on if I'm in Fender Rhodes mode, you know, I might occasionally go for this kind of a sound. But yeah, other than that, that's about as far as I go. Chris says, Nakfi is playing a Fender bass now. You need to get another one. Tell the wife it's a must. Actually, what you see behind me is a Fender. That is a 1962 Fender Jazz bass, fretless. I do have a fretted bass. I have a Marcus Miller signature fretless bass. And I also have the fretted bass. And they are at my dad's studio over in Fife. He uses those more than I do, so he has them at the moment. Yeah. Ken says, with what I've spent on Keyscape and Contact, I probably could have just bought a Nord. I know exactly what you mean. It's actually one of the reasons why I stopped using Contact, by the way. But that's a good point. Al says, last question. My song has eighth note triplet feel throughout. How would I increase the amount of notes for example, a solo? For example, in a solo, if you're improvising a solo and you have that nice kind of blues ballady 12/8 thing that I was talking about, then the next subdivision up from those if you're going to be in 6/8 or 12/8, then you can use 16th notes, instead of going 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and you can go 1 and and then you can do 30-second notes on top of that. And so on and so forth. So you can use 16th notes, 30-second notes in a 12/8 or a 6/8 or a 9/8 context, just like you can in a normal kind of duplet, what they call simple time thing, like 4/4 or 2/4. In 4/4 you'd have for your 16th notes, and you just have like 2 more 16th notes for a triplet feel. So, So I hope you can hear that. I hope you can hear kind of what I'm doing, drumming on my mixer here. But yeah, that would certainly work for you. And of course, there's 30-second notes, and of course, you can do tuplets, you can do quintuplets, you can do non-tuplets, which is like 9 eighth notes or 9 16th notes. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. I mean, if you want to check out a really good solo in the context of that kind of triplet feel, 12/8, 9/8 kind of feel, check out Donald Fagen's song Maxine from his 1982 album The Nightfly, and listen to Michael Brecker's tenor saxophone solo. It is a masterpiece of a solo. It's 8 bars and it's beautifully composed. But it has all sorts of different note values built into it. There's 16th notes, there's 30-second notes in there as well, and it's a complete work of beauty. It's one of the finest moments on tenor saxophone in recorded history. I think it's also one of the finest solos, improvised solos in recorded history, because it is beautifully composed. It's not just Mike showing off his incredible chops, which he has in abundance, or had in abundance, because he's no longer with us, sadly. But he had chops in abundance. He could play extremely complex patterns extremely fast on his saxophone. But on Maxine, he doesn't do that. Yes, there is some technique involved, but it's composition, so it's worth listening to. So that would be my recommendation, actually, for that last question on listening to solos, and just borrow some of those ideas. Let's see. Kind of running out of time, but I want to try and get through some of these questions. Paul says, do you think a certain key is tied to a certain emotion, and why? I mean, in terms of major being upbeat, minor more serious kind of thing. We kind of talked about that on Songwriting Simplified over on Jonny Gibe's channel on Wednesday. So if you've not seen that, go and check that out. Because we kind of covered a lot of that in some great detail. It's a good question, but yeah, the answer will be found over on that show, Songwriting Simplified, which, by the way, we do every Wednesday over on the Home Studio Trainer YouTube channel. So go check that out if you have not done so already. Just Bob says, really good show tonight. As always, full of great info. You're welcome, Bob. I'm trying to find questions. Just Bob says, when Fender completes a purchase, is there any expectation of VSTs that will resemble signature amps for Empire, yada yada yada? Can't answer that question, so not even going to. Chris says, when you play bass, do you use an amp? Vintage Fender Bassman now, hint hint. Chris, you are hilarious. As you can see, there is no amp in this room. But I do have an amp, which is in my garage, which I take on the road when I'm playing gigs. And it is a Fender bass amp. So that answers that question. 911 a day says, love the content. Is there any news on Studio One getting Atmos support? I cannot answer that question either. You're just going to have to wait and see. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that comment in Bob's direction. Appreciate that. Let's see what else is there. Okay. I think somebody asked if I've ever been in Steely Dan. No, I haven't. I wish. I would love to go and work with Donald. That would be great. But no. However, I am good friends with some very important people that actually are good friends of his. So who knows? I might get to meet the guy. Deer Creek, that's my good friend Chris. He says, you have a killer bass. Yes, I do. It's awesome. I love it. It needs some new strings, but it's awesome. And actually, I used this bass with its really, really rancid old strings on a record just recently that it had a bit of a kind of 70s kind of vibe to it. And I thought, actually, this bass is going to sound great. Oh, I forgot to turn off notifications. I'm an idiot. I know we've only got like a minute or so of the show to go, but I really should have done this at the start, and I forgot. Let's see. He's just fishing. Yeah, and I get that. I get you guys are going to fish, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Just don't expect me to give you any information. Because I can't. Because if I did, I would lose my job, and I love my job. I really love my job, and I love the company. I love Presonus, and I have lots of good friends, so I don't want to, I don't want to mess with that. So, hope you guys understand that. But I do understand that, you've got questions like, hey, what's going to happen with the acquisition? Now that Fender have bought Presonus, what's going to happen? What's going to become of this, that, and the other? I can't tell you. Mostly because that information has not been told to me. So I can't relay information that I don't have. But rest assured that, when there is information to be released to the public, you will get it. It will be released and you will get the answers to your questions. But suffice to know, what I can tell you and what I will tell you is that I am super excited by what is happening with this acquisition. I'm seriously excited. I love Fender products. I have played Fender basses for 30 years, 35 years. I've always used a Fender bass. I've always used a Fender bass amp. I've never used another bass amp. Always Fender. So, I swear by their products. And, if I have a Fender bass, I have a Fender cable for my bass. I have a Fender amp. I have a Fender strap. So I love Fender products. They are extremely high quality. The company is good. The company has just had its best ever year. Presonus has just had its best year. So timing is good. Everything is good about it, to be honest. And the future is pretty awesome, I think. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see what is going to come, because I think it's going to be awesome. So I am not at all remotely concerned about some of the things that people have raised as concerns, like, is it going to be like Gibson and Cakewalk and all of that? Well, for a start, Fender isn't Gibson. Presonus isn't Sonar that, made Cakewalk in the first place. So, Gibson was on its way down and trying to save itself. And Sonar was not in a great place either. So, the two companies were not in a great place, and they kind of came together, and it didn't really help either company. That said, BandLab now have it, and from what I can tell, they are doing really great things with it. So it's in a good place. It's in a good place now. But I am not at all concerned about such things. And I don't think you should be either, because it's not the same scenario. Ironweed says, the future is so bright I gotta wear shades. Absolutely. Why do you think these glasses have a tint? These glasses have a tint because the future is always bright. I never look at the future as if it's a bad thing. I always look at the future as if it's a good thing. Even if the future being a good thing presents obstacles. That's a good thing too, because by overcoming obstacles, I grow as a person. I learn things. I achieve things I couldn't possibly have thought of achieving. So, what's the bad? As far as I'm concerned. Seek Squirrel says, my projection is that Fender's new one is going after Universal Audio market with their Freddie Fender legacy, but with competitive pricing. I couldn't tell you. I have no idea. Just be aware that Fender have not bought Studio One. They have bought Presonus. So they have bought the entire company and everything that goes with it. So that includes interfaces, speakers, monitors, mixers, fader ports, the works. It's not just about Studio One. But you guys have all got your predictions, which is cool. I'm glad you are thinking about it. Providing your thoughts are positive, I'm cool with that. Be excited, dream, think big thoughts. What could it be like? What cool things could happen? What cool things could be created out of this? That's a cool thing to be thinking about. Paul, that is very funny. So yeah, think big things, think good things about it. Is what I would, that's what I would recommend. But yeah, I can't give you any information because I don't have any information to give. But yeah, speculating is interesting. And on that point, folks, we are going to call it a day. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate you. You guys are all awesome. Your questions have been fantastic. And thanks a lot for coming. And sorry, I'm distracted by what I'm reading in the chat, which is very bad when I'm trying to end the show. But thank you all very, very much. I appreciate you guys a lot. Watch out for a studio tour video, which I'm going to be putting up this week. I just need to finish editing the thing because I'm not very good at making those kind of videos. They take me ages to make those kind of videos, but I'm editing it and should look pretty good when it's done. So that will go up sometime this week, so be on the lookout for that. And I'm going to go into a bit more of the details of the gear that's in this studio and how I use it all and that kind of stuff. So that will be coming up in the next few days. So it should be pretty cool. And then we'll be back over on the Home Studio Trainer YouTube channel on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified, which should be awesome as well. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'm just trying to find my ending screen wherever it is. Wow, this has got to be the most untidy ending I've ever done. Good night, everybody. Cheers.
Shimmering, turning darkest night to daylight. The rain-soaked street sparkling, neon lights dance to the burning flights. Those basement joints are bouncing, trading fours right up till sunrise. Rhythm changes and Cherokee, the table candles flicker in your eyes. This is where I long to be. This is what I dream. I'm gonna be just blowing some saxophone, grooving hard in some inlet bar, ain't never thinking of home. Gonna be a jester, flying high. Checking out the redhead, her lush lips smile and pale green eyes. Under the lights I'm glowing, the greatest chorus ever improvised. After the show we'll make out, digging discs down at the famous store, and then perhaps a nightcap, stagger out into the misty dawn. This is where I long to be. This is what